First and goal. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City!
On the Odyssey app.
Hate me or love me. You watched. That's all you could do.
And 1080.
Who do you think you are?
The Fan.
Whoa, good morning, Portland.
Woo!
I gotta find a tagline, man. I don't have one. Everybody here at the Fan has their tagline to start the show. Whenever Joe's gone, we gotta help with that, man.
Yeah, you gotta come up with something. Good to see you, Rashad.
It's great to see you, brother.
Mine is What's Up Sports Fans. That's kind of it just kind of came to me.
See,
a few
you got
years ago.
you got your stuff though, man. You know what you're gonna say. I gotta figure this out, man. Yeah, I gotta figure this out ASAP. But this deep baritone is not Joe Fisher. Joe Fisher is out. He is on a skydiving excursion.
Is he really?
I don't think so.
I was
don't
just
know.
like, dude, no.
Knowing Joe, there's a white Zinfandel and some golf clubs involved today.
Perfect weekend for it.
Yeah, that's right up Joe's alley. I went and played 9 holes yesterday.
Ooh, where'd you get to?
Me and my uncles went to Glendevere. It was just somewhere close.
Nice.
Honestly, I didn't.
Nothing wrong with Glendevere.
It's a bunch of novice golfers.
Yeah.
So nobody's great.
No,
we were all equally ass.
Nothing
yesterday.
wrong with that. It's fun that way, actually.
Yeah. I was awful, like frustratingly awful yesterday, but it was great to get out with some family. It was a beautiful day yesterday, and so it was great to get out and just hit the links and shoot a 94 on a 9 holes.
Better than I would have shot, bro. I'm telling you what.
I don't know, man. It was pretty bad, bro.
You haven't not seen. I don't think you've made it out to the Fan Golf Classic and seen my ass of a golf swing. I can barely hit the ball. I get nervous in front of 2 people. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
So,
I cannot get up to the tee.
So it was kind of messed up because it was just supposed to be a guys, me and my uncles and my cousin. My cousin ended up having like a terrible, terrible migraine, which he gets often. So he didn't come, but my uncles came, and I noticed one of my uncles bought his lady with him. And we're like, bro, like, what are you doing? This is just supposed to be the guys. And then take it one further, his girlfriend, their family, they're avid golfers. Like, they golf all the time. I guess her mom was in Sweden or something like that playing golf.
Oh, wow.
Just as we were out there on the links. So my uncle was getting all these golf tips from obviously a golf pro, like which club to use for what. Basically, he had his own caddy. And me and my uncle are back there sucking it up because we're just, I think I'll use my 9-iron on this one. I didn't even have a putter in my I had to rent some clubs. Don't even have a putter in one of them. And so I didn't realize I didn't have a putter because I was doing pretty well for the first 3 holes. And then I was like, man, where's my putter?
Yeah, you sound like me.
Don't even have one, man. So
no, I don't have a complete set either. I have 2 clubs. I was actually looking. I don't know if you've seen Costco has this. Apparently, it's really, really hard to get. It only pops up a certain time of the year, and as soon as it goes into the store, everybody buys it. It's like this $400 iron set from Costco. You got your 3 through 9, and then your sand wedge and your pitching wedge. I think it comes with a putter too. And they're actually really good quality for only $400-ish. You get quite a few clubs for the money.
I'm just looking up how much clubs are because after yesterday, I was like, I just need my own clubs again. I
hear
find some. Looking them up, and them joints are way too expensive.
Yeah, you usually, from what I've been told, start with used, or if in this case, if you can find this awesome deal for Kirkland clubs, they are actually legit. So and shout out to people trying to find any clubs out there. Go look at Costco.
Especially the tall people. I'm not super tall. I'm 6'3".
I would call that super tall, especially compared to my short ass.
Yeah, I guess compared to most people, because the clubs I was using were all so short, and that's one of those things when you have to bend down a whole bunch to make swings. It makes things a little.
You just had surgery, so that did that affect that at all?
Nah, actually, it was cool. I was able to run around a little bit, and I was able to I forgoed the cart for a little bit and just walked on some things to kind of feel good, but it felt good. It wasn't the surgery that made me suck. It was the fact that I'm terrible at this. that made things a lot more difficult.
I'm trying to
But-
help you, Rashad. I'm trying.
I know. I'm sorry, but you can't make many excuses for me, bro.
It's
It didn't work out very well. It's cool because I'm gonna go back at some point and really try to get this whole golf thing, figured out. Who knows? Maybe in a year or so, I'll be out there playing with dirt or playing with ROP. One of the good ones.
Oh God, no! I need like 2 years lessons before I can get out there with ROP. Maybe I don't know. Dirt and Sprague, like they'd be more tolerable of my terrible golf game. I don't think Rob
I don't
would
think
be like,
so.
Schulte, I respect you like 0% now, and I am never talking to you.
Knowing
again.
what I know about all three of those guys, I
A
don't
little
think.
snobby.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. As
Golf
far as being,
snobby.
no, you're not gonna be figuring things out with dirt out there. Especially when you're playing with somebody that's really, really good,
Yeah.
or somebody that's really on it and knows how to play. And yeah, they don't have time to wait for you to figure it out. So you can stop shanking left or right or everything. Yeah, they don't want to do that.
That is the most
Almost guaranteed.
intimidating feeling too. Like as like a novice golfer, you're hanging around guys or gals that are better than you. Like my wife, Rashad, is much better than me. She has not played a round of golf in her life, but you take her to the driving range, she will step up and she will smack the hell out of it every time. She's just got that natural ability to put the club on the ball. And
That's
I look
crazy.
like S.
That's
And it
crazy.
is just so scary when you run into those people and you're just trying to like, oh, I'm out here having fun. And oh God, this is embarrassing. Stop giving me the middle finger. I'm sorry.
No, exactly. And you know what? Golf is probably the only sport that's like that. Like if you suck at basketball, you can still kind of go with your friends and play and run and
You can hide.
you can hide out. You might not get the ball at all.
Grab a
job,
rebound or two.
Your job is to rebound and pass the ball. Like that's it. Maybe play some tough defense, but that's about it.
Be a
Or
decoy on offense.
you can be out there and play for 3 hours basketball and suck completely. Golf though, nobody wants to play with somebody that's that bad. Mind you, I don't want to be on your team on basketball if you're really that bad, but if we got a couple goons out there that's playing with us, then we can win some games even if you suck. But golf, nah, I don't want to wait for you to walk way into the rough or way into the weeds for you to hit your ball. We're good, man. We're good. And that's what it was yesterday. A lot of shanking left and right. So
Well, good for you for getting out there. I'm
Oh,
proud of
man.
you. I need to get out there more. I mean, we've got beautiful September weather. Like, I think it's going to be like 90,
it's supposed to be like 90 next week. I'm thinking about, and
like
I
on
hope,
Tuesday. Yeah.
I hope they're not listening, but I'm thinking about not going to work on Tuesday.
Yeah, call in sick, bro.
There's
Get it
I
done.
mean, it's going to be a little harder to do that now that I've said that, live on air. However, if it comes to, and I don't know, I might wake up and like, hey, man, not really feeling as well today. I haven't used the cancer thing as an excuse to get out of anything yet. I figure I'm going to wait for something
Something
pretty big to be like, sorry, my cancer's acting up today. I can't get out of here. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll be for a hot weather day at the river or something like that. So we'll see what it is, man.
There could be. God, yeah. I love how there's still time to go do that stuff. Because my wife and I were just talking about going out to like a swimming hole maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But now that, and we didn't get to do it, now that like it's 90 still this week, like we could actually slip one in. I mean, it was
Yeah.
Ducks bye week this
For
last
sure.
Saturday. So you're
Yeah.
kind of, instead of watching the Ducks game, you're looking for something to do. And I did notice that, like, while my wife and I were out on Saturday, we saw a lot of other people that were out. It was quite a full traffic weekend. And actually
Oh man,
my wife and
freeways
I
were
were
crazy.
lamenting about the level of traffic. It is now not just like the weekends, but like Friday used to start with the commute at around 2-3 o'clock, I would say. You kind of get out of Portland and then start to see the road to Vancouver, the road to Wilsonville, and everywhere out to Gresham and Hillsborough just really start to fill up at 2-3 o'clock. Now it's like 11 on a Friday.
11
I do
on a
not
Friday.
understand where all these people are coming from, and I you know what? I'm kind of starting to be on the side of there's too many of us here.
They're
There's
skipping
too many
work.
damn
People,
humans.
listen, I've noticed on Friday, like you said, around 11 or 12 or something like that, freeways are crazy. I think
nuts.
it's people either leaving town, trying to get an early start on it and trying to get out of town early, or we have a lot of people skipping work on Fridays.
So you're right about that. Is like there's like a 4-day week thing, but then hear me out on this, Rashad. And I still have not been able to find an answer to this question because you bring up great points. You have people on Fridays, they travel more. They got things to do, they got family activities that they got to prepare for and get out of town to. But you're talking also about people not going into work, right? So
Right.
theoretically, that would mean the traffic out of the central work area, which is downtown Portland, would be a lot better Friday afternoon, but it seems to be worse. So I'm just wondering where all these people that stayed home and like you said, are prepping in their suburban houses, Rashad, to go out to their weekend activities or vacations or whatever. How do they still all end up in downtown Portland and make it so much worse to get to Vancouver or Wilsonville on Fridays? It kills me.
I don't know, man.
God.
Luckily for me, I don't have to go as far as you because you got to go all the way to Wilsonville, every day to get home. I'm about 6 minutes away from here.
That's not bad.
So yeah, I could run here. I'm not gonna,
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
I could run here,
for you.
every day for the show. But I actually don't plan to. But yeah, it's gonna be a great week. It's gonna be beautiful outside, and I don't know about
Go
you. But
running this week.
I've been a lot of places, Jordan. Portland is one of the best places to have warm weather. Like, I mean, if you want to do some day drinking, there are
Yeah.
1.5 million bars or breweries to choose from. You want some good food, you can go to a brick and mortar. You can go to a food cart. You want to get on the river, or you want to get somewhere outside. Go to Sandy, go to Clackamas, go to Washougal, even outside.
Go to Mount Tabor, a regular park.
Go to Mount
yeah.
Tabor. Like, you can really go anywhere and have a beautiful, beautiful day. So hopefully you guys are able to do that next week. We got a great day of sports planned for you, though, ish.
Yeah, we were
Pretty
off
good day.
last week. A lot of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks.
A lot of stuff has happened in the last couple of weeks. I'm trying to think what's the big stuff that's happened over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, if you want to talk locally, I would say the Pac-12 lives.
The Pac-12
the
lives.
re-expansion happening.
The Beavs, got beat down by Oregon, last week. I think to the chagrin of a lot of Ducks fans,
but then turned right back around and beat Purdue down.
and then beat the brakes off of Purdue
So nice to see.
yesterday. So
So they should be in the Big Ten, right? That automatically puts Oregon State in the Big Ten.
Well, you beat them. I mean, why? So I don't see why not, but probably not. So Oregon State's going to continue on the path they're on. They still have an amazing chance to run the table, after the Oregon loss and do something, and potentially, I'm not going to say make a playoff, but we'll see. A one-loss Oregon State team. Who knows? That might be something that's in the card for them. I don't think so, but if there are a bunch of 2-loss teams out there, which in the Big Ten is incredibly plausible, we'll see. But we got a pretty good show for you, man. Bryce Young, is he done in the NFL? Or at least with the Panthers? We'll talk about that. Cowboys, Seahawks, two teams that have a lot of love here in Portland, but both of them are trying to figure out which way is up right now. At least the Seahawks got a big W last week. Can't say the same for the Cowboys. We got Who Do You Love at 9:45, so, we're going to go through some spreads and see what's what today. But there's something I want to start with today. I want to start with college. And I want to start with one player in particular, and that is the most exciting player in college football. We'll talk about him when we come back right here. Football Sunday, 1080 The Fan.
Joe Fisher on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
It is return of the Max. The Max being Rashad Taylor and Jordan Schultz on the Schultz and Shot edition of Football Sunday. We are in the building with you, man.
The only ones.
The only one. It's kind of. It used to be really creepy in the last building because it'd be really dark and stuff like that. So if we came in at like 8 in the morning or something like that,
Yeah.
it was like haunted house type creepy. So we got all these windows and stuff here. It actually looks good. So
Yeah. Got a
I'll take
shower
it.
in the
Yeah, got a
bathroom. We
shower
could
in the
live here if
bathroom.
we wanted.
If you really want to just camp out here, like you got a kitchen and everything, like you'd be okay for a few days. So, and somebody's going to be okay for the rest of the week and potentially the rest of his life is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people. If it's not, then I don't know what rock you've been living under. But in my opinion, the most exciting player in college football, arguably the most exciting player we've seen in college football in a really long time, and that's one Travis Hunter. What else can we say about this kid? He was considered the best player in football when he was at Jackson State, when he was going there. It was a huge get for Jackson State to get Travis Hunter. And everybody was like, oh, man, it's HBCU, Jackson State. Like, he's going to do well there, but is he going to do well here, in D1 play?
Yes.
Here's a guy who is the best receiver on his team, arguably the best receiver in the country, and then turns around and is arguably one of the best DBs, second or third best DB in the country. Here's a dude that had 130 yards yesterday, 18 yards per catch. There was nothing he couldn't do. And then turned around and had a forced fumble to win the game.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. They would not have won.
In what realistic situation would your best receiver cause a forced fumble to win a game?
When you've got Deion Sanders on your roster. Oh, wait, no, he's the coach. Okay, so I kind of see what we're getting at here.
Here's the best player on really the most polarizing team in college football. You either love what Deion is doing in Colorado or you absolutely hate it. There's no in between with what's going on in Colorado. I've seen a lot of hate for Warren Sapp all of a sudden. Warren Sapp, who's been one of those guys that people, again, polarizing guy, for a lot of folks. But as he's, gotten out of his playing career, more people started liking Warren Sapp. Now it's kind of back to, don't really like Warren Sapp. He's talking too much.
Anybody hanging around that program kind of seems to like. Remember, Terrell Owens was doing like the wide receiver warm-ups, I think, when they were playing Oregon and got the hell beat out of them last year, and people were wondering what the heck's going on with that. Like, I think just kind of seeing these names hanging around, not really with an official title, it doesn't like sit the right way. It's not necessarily like a true coach. It's just like, hey, bringing my buddy in. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming that fans in Colorado love that, but fans outside, maybe we're just jealous. Maybe it's like people making fun of Oregon because they don't have the money and just calling everybody at Oregon, oh, Uncle Phil honks. Like, well, yeah, you wish that you were that too. So maybe that's the case.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people a lot of teams, great teams, that wish they had the cachet that a prime time has, that wishes they could move and say the things that prime time does. Here's a guy that came into the locker room and was like, we're coming, so y'all might want to get in the transfer portal because
I'm bringing Louis.
This whole losing thing, is over. And more than anything, what it's done, whether they've won or lost, people have watched. You want to see Colorado. It's the Floyd Mayweather effect. You want to see Floyd dominate, or you want to see Floyd get his ass whooped. It's one of the two. And that's what it is with Colorado. And you can hate almost everything about Colorado, right? Shador can be a little irritating. The hold my watch up, hold my wrist up, that's a little irritating. Hearing that Shiloh is, slapping teammates and a little irritating. Travis Hunter is the one player that we watch Colorado and go, yeah, he's cold. I love him. Yeah. I've yet to hear anybody say, I can't stand Travis Hunter. Here's the best player in college football that plays most of the snaps on offense and then turns around and doesn't just play 2 or 3 snaps on defense. Most of the snaps on defense. Iron Man almost. and is the best player on both sides of the ball.
We're talking like 120 to 150 plays in a game.
When was the last time we saw a player be great on both sides of the ball? I'm trying to think. In my lifetime, I don't know if I've seen it in college football.
Not for a while. I mean, like the last example, and this wasn't even both sides, it's more so like offensive, guys that play multiple positions, like a slash, Cordell Stewart back in the day.
Right.
Like there's just, there's this like serviceable, like, talent if you're athletic enough to move between the running back and the wide receiver position, maybe play quarterback if you have a little bit of an arm. But I don't think we've seen really any kind of versatility like that since Slash.
No.
If I'm forgetting anybody here on the Vancouver Ford text line, please let me know. And by the way, we are talking about Colorado's 38-31 victory over
Yes.
Baylor. Huge
Baylor,
comeback win.
The biggest game of the weekend for a lot of people. Just definitely the most exciting game. There were times where Colorado didn't look like they were able to move the ball much, and then they scored consistently in each quarter. But that last pass from Shedeur Sanders, and I think he's somebody that's also very polarizing. You either love Shedeur or you hate him. You think he's super, super dope, or you think he's annoying as hell. But that pass that he made, about to get hit in the rain, that's another thing people don't really talk about. That in the rain, not dropping back, but scrambling, just about to get hit, throws a beautiful ball between what looked like 3 Colorado defenders.
It looked like an NCAA 25 pass.
Yeah.
Like
it's definitely not, because guess
Perfect.
what? In NCAA 25, that gets picked every single time. I know this because I've been trying to do that consistently, and it has not worked.
Yeah, that's fair. It's happened
So
to me too.
there's been a lot of rage quitting with the number of interceptions that are thrown.
But
And so Shedeur,
I hear you. Shedeur
Mind
has
you,
a bullet of an arm.
and he had to throw it. He didn't have a choice. Time is running out. I can't take the sack. And LeJohntay, last name?
LeJohntay Webster.
LeJohntay Webster.
Or Wester,
Excuse me.
Kid that caught the touchdown at the
Made
last
the
second,
catch
yeah.
of his life. Made the what probably will be considered the catch of the year to put that game into overtime. And then all of a sudden, man, you saw what happened at the end. Travis Hunter was able to come through for his team. So again, I'm struggling because even with Slash, those were all offensive snaps that he was taking for the most part. Punting the ball at points, or being a running back, lining up at receiver. Like, those are things that an offensive player, could do. I think Michael Vick could have lined up at receiver a couple times and been pretty good. But for a player to be your best corner and then turn around to be your best receiver and then play 80% of the snaps on both sides of the ball, and to be that dominant and to have that motor, if you're asking me, I think he's the number 1 pick in the draft. Like,
over a quarterback.
Where do you want to put him? Like,
Yeah.
if you got holes on your offense, I've got a hole at receiver, we've got holes at corner, or you got Travis Hunter right there that you can put wherever. Like, Shedeur is probably going to be the number 1 pick. Shedeur is a hell of an athlete and has a cannon on him. It would make sense. He's a quarterback. Most teams need quarterbacks before they need corners. It makes sense, right? However, I think Travis Hunter has kind of, at this point, cemented himself as the best player in college football.
Oh, hands down. To try to answer your question, though, did check in with Dr. Google about other two-way players in college football the last few years, and there have been a couple, I would say, more recent examples in the last 10 years. Adoree Jackson at USC, Jabril Peppers at Michigan. Jackson actually started off winning a Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, returned punts and kicks in his first season as well. So he did touch the ball offensively, but then sophomore year actually basically started catching the ball on offense. Totally 27 catches, 4 to 14 yards, 2 touchdowns. He returned 2 punts for touchdowns. Also had an INT for a pick 6. So at that point, I mean, he basically, even while playing offense, still was one of the best defensive players in the league, if not the entire college football landscape. Won Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year and the Jim Thorpe Award that year. Jabril Peppers, same thing, basically a 5-star recruit, top-ranked athlete recruit in the 2014 class. Got injured his freshman year, but played almost 1,000 snaps, most of those on defense in his sophomore season. And then after playing defense, it was really his junior season or his third year in college football where he started to go onto the offensive side of the ball as well. But that was more so returning kicks, spent a little time. So these examples are few and far between. Miles Jack from UCLA.
Miles Jack was very good.
Yeah. He was a running back, but also a defensive freshman of the year. Excuse me. He earned Pac-12 offensive and defensive freshman of the year in the same season. 76 tackles that year, the highest total ever recorded by a UCLA true freshman. Played running back
That's
and
crazy.
linebacker.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So Miles Jack's
That
on that
Miles
list.
Jack, when he was at UCLA, he was really a monster.
Oh yeah.
Really a monster. But it definitely helps for for Travis Hunter to have Deion as your coach, right? To play for Colorado, to have that microscope. I don't know if Miles Jack ever had that microscope on him every single week. I don't know if Miles Jack's UCLA team was like the team that you went and played with on college football, just to get an easy win.
Well, I don't think any other coach would allow Travis Hunter to play as many snaps as he does. Like no other in the 130 in FBS. None. Deion's the only one.
Yeah, Deion's ballsy,
Yeah, he is.
and so he's going to
Because he did it.
Yeah, and he is. And last year they lost Travis Hunter, and I think that hurt that Buffalo's team. They obviously weren't the same team without him, and you're seeing what the Travis Hunter effect is. And for fans, you may not like Colorado. I mean, I don't love Colorado, especially since they're competing against, the local teams for supremacy up top. But
yeah,
man, you've got to love and really appreciate. And I think that's the main thing as a sports fan. I appreciate these rare commodities that we have sometimes in sports. You have to appreciate a LeBron James and what he does out there. You may not like him, but when he's gone, you're going to see how different the game, actually is. I appreciate what we're seeing from Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's something that you have to appreciate what you saw from Tom Brady or Michael Jordan. It's like, probably won't see something like that again. You'll see other, iterations of it, like a Magic Johnson. You're not going to see a 6'9" point guard that can dominate like that, anymore. Maybe not. We'll see. We haven't seen one since then, And so I think Travis Hunter is one of those guys I look at almost like the aura of Reggie Bush. Like, there's really nothing that you can do about him. You just kind of got to hope that he gets hurt, and knock on wood, because nobody does that. But you got to hope that he just has a bad game and doesn't perform the way, that he has been performing. So, man, Travis Hunter and the Colorado Buffaloes had a great win yesterday in overtime. And most of which is because of Travis Hunter's 130 yards receiving and forced fumble to end the game. That's impressive. Again, you can hate all you want to, but you got to respect it.
He's a cheat code. He is a literal cheat code.
You got to respect it. So, okay. Coming up next, man, Cowboys.
Oh, no. Let's go Bryce Young. Do you want to talk Bryce Young next hour, or do you want to talk Cowboys this hour? How do you want to do this?
Okay, then. Well, we're going to do that. But first, Jordan has sports.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, Oregon on a bye week, but the Oregon State Beavers absolutely handling Purdue 38-21. Jam Griffin running for 137 yards and a touchdown, while Anthony Hankerson adding 89 yards and 2 tutties. And in the NFL, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, good news for the Chargers. They are going to start former Duck Justin Herbert at quarterback today against the Steelers, despite his high ankle sprain. That game kicks off
Go Ducks
at 10 a.m. on CBS. That's right, Rashad. Go Ducks. The 2-0 Seattle Seahawks hosting the Miami Dolphins up at Lumen Field this afternoon as a 4-point favorite. Coverage getting going right here on the Fan at 11 a.m. following Football Sunday. Kickoff set for 1:05 on Fox. And in baseball, the Mariners showing off their bats again last night. They beat the Texas Rangers 8-4. Julio Rodriguez going off. He had 4 hits, including a leadoff whammy and 4 RBIs. They are still technically in the playoff hunt. Minnesota facing off against the Red Sox in a doubleheader today, and the Mariners are a game and a half behind the Twins for the final wild card spot in the American League. Seattle going for the series sweep today. They've got Brian Wu on the bump. First pitch set for 11:35 a.m. on Root Sports. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Suk for A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Before getting a new train system installed, I was guilty of getting one quick fix after another. Then I found a team that educated me on how to keep my house comfortable, and they showed me the difference between a cheap stopgap and an affordable long-term solution. So don't get caught in the cycle of spending as little as possible again and again and again. Solve your HVAC issues for the long haul. Call A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air or visit aeheatingandcooling.com. Your local independent.
You Make My Earthquake. It's a good song. I love this record, man. Man, 9:35, Sunday, September 22nd. Man, this month is just flying by.
This whole year. Getting
Man,
older
this
is
whole
weird.
year. It really is. It feels like, years feel like they're only about 6 months as opposed to the full 12 because it doesn't seem like it's been a full year of anything. It doesn't seem like we've been here for like 2 years, 2.5 years?
It's true. Fun fact, you know why that is?
Why?
Because your life, days in your life at this point in our 30s to 40s as we get older are actually perceived shorter because of the feeling that when we're a kid, like say your life, look at it from 0 to 10. Those days in those years are your entire life to that point. You have lived only 10 years, and so those days feel like such a longer existence to you at that age because you haven't been around as long. And now that we're into our 30s, we're into our 40s and up, the days feel shorter because there are more of them. And when you're younger, there are just less days to feel. So it is an actual like perception that is so accurate because we get older and there are just more days that we have experienced life of.
Well,
So
look at Dr. Schultz over here.
That's
I love it, man.
It's a weird. I remember getting like into a deep wormhole on the internet about that one time, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fascinating.
Well, speaking of short days, or somebody's days are numbered in Carolina.
Oh my God.
Bryce Young. Oh, Bryce Young.
You know what?
I feel bad for Bryce Young.
We need the bells for this.
Yeah, I don't feel as bad when I hear the bells.
Right?
But, oh, man, I feel your heart goes out to the young man, because Bryce Young in his first couple starts this year has not been great.
No.
Total of 3 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, a passer rating in this first game of 32.8. And then he did better the second game because it was 57.2. But
Well, better than the QBR that he had in his first overall season of 34.1.
no, and it's bad. And then to make matters worse, you're getting benched. And the guy you're getting benched for isn't like a world beater. You know, there was a time they were considered a really good quarterback, but that was like for 1 or 2 years. But you're being benched for the Red Rocket. Andy Dalton is now going to take snaps this week as the Panthers visit the Raiders at 1:05 today. Hey, man, I like Bryce Young. I think we all kind of like Bryce Young. You know, he's somebody that we've watched since college. You know, we watched him at Alabama. I think a lot of us kind of knew that if you look at any Bama quarterback, like, which of them have been great. Honestly, I think Jalen Hurts might be the only one that's been great. And even he's been a little up and down for a lot of his career. People were really down on Jalen Hurts. Bryce Young, though, has 245 yards through his first 2 games. Again, 3 interceptions. A QBR of 9.4. QBR of 9.4. Is it safe to say that maybe Bryce Young just isn't an NFL quarterback?
I mean, I think that's more than safe to say. There are even some national pundits that I give credit to, some that are admitting, like Dan Orlovsky said on ESPN this week, I was very wrong on Bryce Young. Nice to hear that out of his lips. But then others kind of turn it around. I love Kurt Warner, one of my favorite players growing up, but hearing him say on ESPN, well, he hopes that Bryce Young can learn and grow. And of course, I hope that for him too. But in the context of him playing in the NFL, dude's not tall enough. That there literally is no example other than Michael Vick of a short guy like Bryce Young with that same play style succeeding in the NFL, other than like the ability to run, like being Michael Vick's like huge separator from everybody else. Like, yeah, Russell Wilson's had success in the league. Drew Brees has had success in the league. Fran Tarkenton has had success in the league. Then maybe Kyler Murray, who hasn't appeared in a Super Bowl yet, sort of had some success in the league, right? I'm talking about 6-foot guys down to like 5'10" guys. And I think I'm leaving out one. Doug Flutie. That's the other one I'm leaving out. So there's literally a handful. We're talking 5, 6, 7 guys ever in the history of the NFL that have ever succeeded
Drew
at
Brees.
6 foot and under. There you go. Okay, so maybe I thought I said him. Maybe I did.
I don't know.
So I apologize. But yeah, Drew Brees is on that list as well because he is supposedly 6 foot. But yeah, but my point is the list of quarterbacks that are short and that have succeeded is very, very tiny. And Michael Vick, I cannot believe that some people maybe even thought that there was sort of a comparison to Bryce Young. Bryce Young cannot run like Michael Vick could. Obviously, he's the best running quarterback in the history of the NFL. And if people looked at Bryce Young's Alabama tape and thought, well, you know, he's going to succeed with mediocre receivers, he's going to be the elevator of people's games in the NFL, I do not know what you are thinking when you see that. Rashad, I watched the 11-on-11 of his first 2 weeks, and it looked bad. Guy can't check down. Guy can't make his first read. Now, I will say that some of that's on the offensive line.
I was going to say we got to give a lot of blame to Carolina because they have not built a great team.
But I also give blame because you see this in the 11-on-11. He's missing open receivers. He's missing a lane where he actually could make a cut and gain 4, 5, 6 yards on a little quarterback draw or a run instead of trying to force it into double coverage. There are many mistakes, and I don't know if it's because he doesn't have time, you know, even to look at his first read, or if he's just so frazzled, so nervous, still trying to learn an NFL offense, because that's all complex. But the dude is too in his head, and if he's already short and having to, like you saw, I think week 1, it was kind of like a hop jump over the line to try to throw one of his passes. I mean, if you're already struggling mentally and then don't have the physical ability to even see over the offensive line, how does anybody believe you can succeed in the NFL?
No, yeah, I think those are all, valid points. Like I said, I this is the downside of being the number one pick of any sport. Unfortunately, with the exception of basketball, because one player in basketball can change the fortunes of your franchise.
One player can also hide.
Yeah,
basketball.
absolutely.
Kind of like we were talking about in golf.
Bryce Young went to the worst team in football. Carolina is still, they haven't been the same since the year after they went to the Super Bowl. After that, they've flatlined, and they haven't been able to figure out which way is up for the longest time. So I don't want to put all the blame on Bryce Young. Again, offensive line, there's a lot of holes there. So, at times he's running for his life or hoping he doesn't get sacked. But I don't know. I feel like he can still be a good quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be in Carolina. I think there are too many what ifs in Carolina for him to be successful. And it's unfortunate this young man's going to wash out of the league before we really get a chance to see how good he could potentially be. I think we all looked at Bryce Young and saw that, okay, this kid can play. He knows what he's doing. And you were drafted number 1 overall because of that.
Yeah.
And so you're in this. We're looking at Caleb Williams right now, going, kid doesn't have it. Doesn't look like he's
those picks looked pretty bad last week.
They did. But again, what team does he play for?
The Chicago Bears. Da Bears.
When was the last time the Bears were good? Ish.
With Rex Grossman?
There you go. So it's been a long time. So both of these guys went to franchises that have a history of losing, and then 1 year in between there to where they just go from worst to first and end up in the Super Bowl, right? So,
but to the Panthers' credit, they added Deontay Johnson,
they did.
Via free agency, and then Xavier Legette in the draft. Dudes are good wide receivers, and I've already seen many articles this week talking about Andy Dalton, since he has the ability to complete the ball to his receivers, seeing the Panthers' offense kind of stepping up this week. I don't understand, other than him being too short, why Bryce couldn't necessarily hook up with those receivers. And yeah, back to what I was saying, it's either he's too short or he just did not have the space in his head to even see those receivers open, because there were quite a few misses on Bryce Young's end, and not all of them were because of the offensive line. Some of them were just bad decision making. So I'm not on the side that you're on, Rashad. I'm not sure he's going to be a successful NFL quarterback. I was saying before the draft last year that anybody else should have gone first. CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. I didn't know what CJ Stroud looked like yet. And the Panthers are absolutely eating their own booty because they didn't pick CJ Stroud. Whatever you wanted to hear from
you're kicking yourself for that one.
Yeah, Dave Tepper and Frank Reich and that argument. Moving on from that, it does seem like Dave Canales is somebody that might be willing to stick up to Dave Tepper as opposed to just toe the company line. I don't know. Okay. But this is a big decision that he made. It's a ballsy decision that he made.
This is a decision to get your GM fired.
Yeah.
Your number 1 pick is being benched in week 2 of his second year, or week 3 of his second year for Andy Dalton. So it doesn't fare well for Bryce Young. So Bryce Young the Bryce Young on the bench holding the clipboard will be number 2 behind Andy Dalton today as the Panthers visit the Raiders at 1:05 on CBS.
Quick report this week came out from Carolina that said it could be a temporary benching for Bryce Young. Yeah. We might see a Zach Wilson situation.
Andy Dalton gets
York
one pick and he's back on the bench, so we'll see what it is. So.
But Zach Wilson didn't succeed when they gave him the second chance either, and when he had to step in for Aaron Rodgers, he sucked.
Yeah, Zach Wilson is in the same boat.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a forever clipboard holder. That's what he's gonna be. Okay, coming up next, man, we're gonna make our picks, man. Who do you love? Let's get some spreads out here. How about it? Coming up next, right here, Football Sunday on the Fan.
Get in on all the Powerball and Mega
and look back at last week to see if they still love their picks. It's time for Who Do You Love? Part of Sports Sunday on 1080 The Fan.
My favorite song, my favorite segment.
This is a fun one.
This Who Do You Love, man? You know, we're gonna go through some of the games, gonna go through some spreads, you know, some over-unders, and, you know, try to win some fake money day or real money, depending on, you know, what it is. So
I've been terrible this season.
So you know what? I'm gonna let you start. I don't want to be a buzzkill, man. Jordan, go ahead and you can start with the first game.
All right, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to go right here at home in the Pacific Northwest with the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Miami Dolphins. Seattle is a 4-point favorite with backup Skylar Thompson coming in to lead Miami, and actually a little bit of coaching familiarity there. The Seattle Seahawks new head coach, Mike Macdonald, that has actually worked with Dolphins D coordinator Anthony Weaver. They spent 2 seasons together working on the Ravens staff. Weaver was an assistant head coach and the defensive line coach under McDonald as the D coordinator. And Baltimore's D, they ranked 3rd in scoring defense in 2022 and 1st in 2023. So a defensive mindset basically coming into today's game. However, I do see the Seahawks offense winning out, even without Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet has been nails all season in their first 2 games. See him running for a lot again today, especially since Miami is going to be leaning hard on the blitz and trying to get Geno out of his element. But once again, man, he's looked good too to DK Metcalf. So I think with the Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf connections available, and then Noah Fant as well at tight end, like Seattle's just been great on offense. I see them easily covering the 4 against Miami today.
Okay. So I am going to go with my New Orleans Saints, and my Derek Carr, right?
Like that one.
Against the Philadelphia Eagles as they host the Eagles today. New Orleans is a 2.5-point favorite. I don't think 2.5 is enough. This Eagles team is still trying to figure it out, and right now this New Orleans team is arguably the biggest surprise through 2 weeks of football, and Derek Carr and the way that they're playing. Derek Carr being fined last week for his Michael Jackson hee celebration. But the spread is 2.5. I think New Orleans is going to win by a little more than 2.5.
Next, I'm going to Houston. Or no, excuse me, to Minnesota, where the Houston Texans are taking on the Minnesota Vikings coming up in just a few minutes. Minnesota 2-0, surprisingly, with Sam Darnold under center. And Minnesota's defense, actually, one of the better ones in the NFL as well. And also a very high blitz rate. I believe they blitz almost as much as the first-place team in the NFL at 36% of the time. So they give a lot of pressure to their quarterback on the opposing team, but CJ Stroud is just too good, and the spread only being at 2, I see the Texans winning this by a field goal. I think the Vikings do take their first loss today, even with Sam Darnold playing well with Jay Jeff and crew over there.
Okay, I'm going to move over to Indianapolis, hosting the Chicago Bears today. The Bears have been inept so far. Caleb Williams doesn't exactly look like the number 1 pick that we all thought he would be, but give him some time. He's only been in the league for all of 2 weeks, and so hopefully they can turn things around. But the spread is 2 points, 2-point favorites for the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have been kind of scraping by in their last couple of games, and so it wouldn't shock me if today was the day that Caleb Williams was actually able to do some scoring. The over-under is 43.5, and I'm taking the under.
43.5 on the under. I kind of like that. Might throw that in a parlay or something.
Right.
Brother. That's a good one. All right, my final pick going to be another spread. Well, technically not, because the spread is 1 point. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens straight up on the road to beat the Dallas Cowboys today. Here's why. Dallas coming off of that terrible performance against the New Orleans Saints. Their defense just looks anemic. Don't really know what's going on besides Micah Parsons. They can't seem to get it together. And yeah, despite everybody making money on the offensive side with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott getting their cash before the regular season, not really translating at least 2 wins. CeeDee's had 9 receptions, 150 yards, and a tutty so far, so pretty normal numbers for him. But Yeah, Dallas looks terrible. I believe Baltimore, who's 0-2, desperately needs a get-right game. And I think after that week one disappointment of Likely's toe basically being the difference between the win or not, I feel like Baltimore really is just foaming at the mouth, and they're looking at Dallas with a target on their back. So I say Baltimore straight up to win that game this afternoon in Dallas.
Both teams really, really need a get-right game.
Yes,
Really
they
need
do.
to get this thing going. My last one is going to be San Francisco visiting the Rams. San Francisco is a 6.5-point favorite. That seems about right, just considering how good of a team San Fran is. They also are trying to bounce back. Big loss against the Jets last week, so it wouldn't shock me if they came out in LA and just put on a crazy show against the Rams.
Yeah, I actually, I was looking at that pick and kind of going the opposite way. I wonder how Brock Purdy is going to do, basically. He's been able to lean on all these weapons in Ayuk and McCaffrey, Kittle, whenever they're healthy, but now you got two of those guys down, in McCaffrey and Kittle. I feel like at this point, Shanahan might revert. I heard this on ESPN earlier this week, and it was a great point, I think, by Mina Kimes, saying that Shanahan was probably going to revert back to having to go like more play action, to really try to figure out. Because if you see play actions in a game, if you see motions, what those are is identifiers for the offense. They are trying to identify either the blitzer or a one-on-one coverage that they can expose, or something that like they've got like a slant that's going to be open, in a particular seam. That's literally the purpose of that process for the offense, and you've kind of been able to like just trick the defense. San Francisco has had so many weapons that you can't really key in on one. Now San Francisco's gonna have to turn around, use a little bit more play action. Kyle Shanahan gonna have to fool the defense maybe a little bit again without all these weapons, Rashad.
No, it's going to be a huge adjustment for Shanahan to try to figure out how to use all these weapons that they have in a more productive way. I feel like that with this team, there's no reason they should even have a loss on their record, ever. If at the most,
I mean, if they're healthy, yeah.
San Francisco should have 3 losses a year, on their record, because they are that good. And of course, there'll be some slip-ups in between there. So they just kind of got to figure it out, man. So,
but like, would Bryce Young succeed with their offense healthy? I think he might have a little bit more success.
Yeah, he would, absolutely.
And I guess that's the argument against Brock Purdy. And we will truly see today is a great example. What Brock Purdy can do with couple of toes kind of lopped off from his foot, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. That is Who Do You Love? Man, we do it every single Sunday on Football Sunday at the 9:45 spot, just to make sure that you guys can get your bets in right before the game starts.
4 minutes.
We got about 4 minutes. Get your red zone going. Get your, hopefully you got all your breakfast stuff ready. You got your Bloody Mary. You got your Bloody Mary. Maybe your mimosa, if your
There we
ladies
go.
there.
Hooray beer.
Yeah, so it's about that time. Football Sunday. We're coming back for hour number 2 with Jordan Schultz, Rashad Taylor, Schultz and Shad edition, Football Sunday, right here, 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Suk, and I want to talk directly to all my contractors out there. I know for flooring, you all go to the quote wholesale place, but what if I told you there was an alternative locally with better pricing, service they can even install, and competitive financing for contractors?
on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Bob, in all my years of calling games, I don't think I've ever been this excited.
You're excited? Feel these nipples.
All right, what's up, sports fans? Let's do it. Hour 2 of Sports Sunday, a Schulte and Schott edition here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch, everywhere, all around the internet, so you can find us, and on the terrestrial radios as well. No Joe Fisher today, unfortunately, but we are talking lots of football. Going to continue with that here on an OSU wrap-up, as well as some Pac-12 expansion talk. Then we'll get into the announcement about the WNBA coming back to Portland. Rashad, a huge announcement this week at the Moda Center, and I am so excited for the WNBA to come back to Portland. I'm assuming, hopefully, they'll be just the Portland Fire again. It'll be easy. Can kind of, bring that branding back, and everybody can wear all their jerseys from 20-some years ago. It'll be amazing, but I do have some concerns, not with the team, not with the WNBA coming to Portland, but with the Moda Center and with the venue that the Blazers and now, Portland WNBA team, hopefully Portland Fire, will be playing in together. Obviously, two different parts of the year, but there's some concerns that I have with the Moda Center, Rashad, that I wanted to get into. In that announcement, they talked about the renovations able to be done with the Moda Center because of a 5-year lease extension. Essentially, it is now one of the oldest arenas in the NBA, if you can believe it.
It's crazy.
It is. It's new. Like back in 1994, 1995, it's this new thing, this great arena that's this huge difference than the Memorial Coliseum. Was state of the art at the time. Well, yeah, it's 30 plus years old now. So, got to get a move on, and we'll get into why I'm excited about the WNBA, but not so excited about the Portland team playing in the Moda Center, as well as a couple of baseball items. The Seattle Mariners, Jekyll and Hyde right now in the playoff race. They've been playing really good the last few games. Their bats finally turning it on, so we'll get into that. Unfortunately, might be a little bit too late for them, though. And to wrap up the show, we will highlight, and I guess more so laugh at, a professional athlete, a Major League Baseball player, Rashad, that was demoted after spending a night out at a casino until 8 a.m. the next morning. So pretty big stuff happening this week. We'll get into all of that. But let's wrap up our football talk with first Oregon State. Of course, Oregon was off this week. They will be facing off against UCLA for their Big Ten Conference opener this next weekend. Of course, how like it's to be against a team that they played in the Pac-12, Oregon opening up a Big Ten play against UCLA. But that'll be good coming up here on The Fan next Saturday. But really exciting to watch from the get-go, Rashad, last night was Oregon State's win over the Purdue Boilermakers out of the Big Ten. So they win over Purdue 38-21, and that means they get into the Big Ten, right? No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk a little bit about Pac-12 expansion stuff and why I'm not as excited about that as other people are. I think Oregon State has kind of just gotten a raw deal and forgotten about, and get into that here in a minute. But I got to give props, Rashad, to Oregon State. They look so good on the ground.
They did.
Anthony Hankerson and Jam Griffin again running all over the place. Jam 137 yards and a tutty. And then Hankerson had 89 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. Nice run around the end, too, to Zachary Card. Love seeing him. Basically like the short, white wide receiver, on every NFL team. So he's the slot guy. But it was really cool to see him get a couple of opportunities, and one where he ran in for a touchdown. So one of those rushing touchdowns was his as well. And not seeing many passes because Giovanni McCoy just didn't really have to throw the ball much. He ran the ball really well. Oregon State, obviously good on the ground. I really would put them as one of the best running teams in college football, at least like the top 20, 30, right? Like I'm not talking, they're an elite SEC running team, but they can get some yards. I mean, like 450 total yards, I think, in yesterday's win over Purdue. And this is a team with a big front four, right? This is a team that does a lot of stunting, that tried to mess with Giovanni McCoy's head as much as they could, but to the Beavers' credit, and I want to say not really knocking Purdue, it wasn't. It was more of a fluke. It wasn't necessarily anybody's fault. Maybe you could blame the quarterback that first pass bounced off of the back of the ankle of the running back right into a Beavers linebacker, in for a pick six for the first play of the game. Like it started off early for Oregon State, and they were up from that point, and it was really hard for Purdue to come back, but I got to give credit to Oregon State and how good they look, how much better and much more of like an FBS, like, normal team that we expect to see out there than people thought, as opposed to like maybe like the Colorado States of the world. And we'll talk about that in a second because Colorado State got a invite to the Pac-12 this week. But Oregon State looking a lot better, playing above their station, Rashad, more than a lot of people thought, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, to me, this is just to me, in the game against U of O last week, they shot themselves in the foot. The one thing Oregon State does really, really well is run the ball.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. You mentioned them being one of the top rushing teams in the country. They run the ball really well. Yesterday, they did what they're supposed to do. They ran the ball 57 times, right? You were able to have 4 touchdowns on the ground, from those 57 carries. Guess how many times they carried the ball last week against U of O?
Probably less than 30.
32.
Oh, wow.
That's not going to get it done when you have a rushing attack like Jam Griffin and Anthony Hankerson there. That's not going to get it done. And I think they went away from what makes them special. They threw the ball 34 times last week against Oregon State. They threw it 18 yesterday against Purdue. Or, excuse me, against U of O. Against Oregon. They threw the ball 34 times. Purdue, 18. Because they stuck to what they know. And what they know is running the ball. And honestly, I think they shot themselves in the foot against Oregon. Yesterday was a get right game for them because they got a chance to kind of reset and go back out there and do what they're really, really great at. Giovanni McCoy, it probably isn't going to throw 300 touchdowns and 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? We probably know he's
really, no John Mateer.
That's not what he does yet. And not to say that, he can't kind of develop into that guy by the time he's a senior, but at this point we know that's not his game. And so if they had stuck to the game plan last week, then maybe they don't get blown out the way they do by the Ducks. But this week they decided to get back to business at home, and they still have a great chance to make some noise in the postseason. I mean, honestly, if you look at the rest of Oregon State's schedule, it's winnable. They get Colorado State next week. Then they got Nevada. They're going to have a tough time with my UNLV Rebels. That's the one thing. They're going to have a tough time with them because UNLV is playing to start the season, some inspired football at 3-0 at this point. So, I think Oregon State still has a brilliant chance to make a lot of noise and surprise a lot of people. With one loss on your schedule to end the season, that who knows if you're talking playoff. But, I think Oregon State had an amazing game yesterday. Stick to the basics. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's exactly what Oregon State did yesterday.
Well, they won the time of possession battle, which it kind of speaks to.
And when you run the ball.
Well, yeah, and put together those long drives, that's really what running the ball accomplishes. And I think if you're giving Purdue less of an opportunity to have the ball, then you're more likely than not going to win. Because they really didn't, like efficiency-wise, it didn't seem like Oregon State played their best game. 7 of 14 on third down, but it didn't matter. Giovanni McCoy, completing 10 of 18, that's only 50% of his passes or just over that, but it really didn't matter. They had 50 yards in penalties, but it didn't matter because they're such a good running team. It kind of covers up all those other things. And then I do think, that first very lucky pick six, it was kind of a fluke, but Oregon State really played well the entire game. So, you can say it's a fluke, but if that's going to knock Purdue down and if that's going to keep, their quarterback, I'm not saying that like Purdue's a massively great passing team, but if Hudson Card's essentially going to be scared the rest of the game and their offense isn't going to be able to move the ball, I mean, they only had it for 20 minutes, but he had nowhere to go with his opportunities. He just couldn't do anything for Purdue.
I felt bad for the kid, at points watching him. You're 7 for 17, a touchdown and a pick. Devin Maccabee had an amazing game on the ground. 16 carries for 168 yards and a tutty. Like that was the one bright spot for this Purdue team, is that they were able to run the ball with some ease really against Oregon State. Even Reggie Love had 10 carries for 66 yards, so 6.5 yards a carry. Every single time he touched the ball and a touchdown. So they had some success there. They just couldn't move the ball through the air. And I think that was the big thing. This Oregon State defense is, they can be kind of not stingy as far as takeaways, but just allowing a lot of yards through the air so far. So far, it's been a hell of a season for this Beavers team. And the question you have is, can they hang on to it for, when the weather changes, right? When it starts getting colder outside and that rain comes, that Oregon weather is no joke out here. And so can they sustain that throughout the entire year? I think they can, especially considering the schedule that they have.
A lot of quarterback hurries last night, too, so that's encouraging going forward for Oregon State's defense and new head coach Trent Bray. Yeah, like you said, a couple of Nevada schools, and then you got Cal, San Jose State Air Force, and then I think the two hardest games on their schedule after Oregon are Washington State and then at Boise State. Actually, that's going to be a good one. At Boise State, Rashad, that's a Black Friday morning game, day after Thanksgiving, 9 a.m. on Fox, Oregon State v. Boise State, and that would be so cool to see Oregon State going in like 9-10-1 against Boise State,
right?
For kind of like, I'm not sure it would be a college football playoff opportunity, but an opportunity to get into a great bowl game and maybe to show the rest of the world that they are a much better program than people think. And really quickly, I wanted to kind of get into that just a little bit, Rashad, with the news in the last week or so that the Pac-12 is going to be expanding again, inviting Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State into the Pac-12. Those four schools have accepted the invitation. This is going to start in 2026, I believe. They cannot get out of their current deals with the Mountain West. If they wanted to get out with a 1-year notice, it would be like double the amount it is with a 2-year notice. So I think they're paying basically half the amount that they would if they wanted out in 1 year. So it's not going to happen for a couple of years, but the Pac-12 lives. And Rashad, also being targeted by the Pac-12 looks like Memphis, Utah State, Tulane, USF have all been either offered Pac-12 invites or contacted by the Pac-12. So we're starting to see kind of a similar happening with the now existing Pac-12 conference that we have with others, and it's not necessarily geographically based anymore. It's just everywhere. I've heard rumors that Hawaii might eventually get into the Pac-12 as well. I've always thought that's kind of perfect. I do feel like Hawaii has been a good program. They've got a rich history. But looking at all this, Rashad, ultimately, I do feel like the Pac-12 is becoming the Mountain West Light, or the Mountain West 2.0, plus Washington State and Oregon State. And credit to Washington State, they're a great team too. I seriously think John Mateer, after that performance on Friday night, 100-plus yards and a tutty, 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns through the air. I mean, get him in the Heisman conversation. Not necessarily ready to win it yet, but those are the kinds of games, that is a video game type of statistic line. Yeah. Those are the kinds of games that put you in national award conversations. And then Oregon State coming off their great win at Purdue, 3-1. Yeah, and after Washington State beat San Diego State in such a crazy, I'll call it, Pac-12 After Dark game on Friday, because Pac-12 After Dark never seems to die. You wonder if Oregon State and Washington State, once again, were unfairly left out of the expansion conversation, Rashad. And I really think that they were. It's so frustrating to think of, the likes of Kirk Herbstreit and other national pundits laughing at the idea of like a Washington State being included in a conference, instead of just being forgotten about. And really, the only reason I think that is literally geography. Unfortunately, because Oregon, people don't even know how to say our state's name sometimes. Oregon. It's like, dude, do you people say Oregon? Boston? Look at that word. Boston, you say Boston. Why, when I see Oregon, I say Oregon? You're all idiots. Like, I don't understand that.
That is super annoying. I remember Mariota getting his Heisman. University of Oregon. It was like,
you are literally miles from Boston, because that's in New York. They are down the road from Boston, Massachusetts, where that city ends with an O-N. Oregon ends with an O-N, yet nobody can seem to understand how to say it. So I do think, unfortunately, the geographic spot that Oregon State is in, and then Washington State, unfortunately, just kind of forgotten about up here in the Pacific Northwest in Corvallis and Pullman, is the main reason, because it certainly isn't program prestige. It's the main reason, geographics alone, why they were left out of any kind of expansion conversation. I'm trying to find, Rashad, in my head before the show starts today, a rich college football program, steeped in tradition that necessarily hasn't like ever won a national title, but has won conference titles. Has, and I think of a more recent successful team in like the Wisconsin Badgers, for instance, right? They've since division titles came into play, for the Big Ten Conference, Wisconsin has won a ton of those, right? 2014, 16, 17, and 19. They won the conference title last in 2012. But before that, there was a good 12, 13-year gap. They went between 1999 and 2010 without any conference titles or any action. Like, they had a pretty down, 10-plus year time in their program. And I look at overall, like, conference titles, Wisconsin, 14. Oh, look, Oregon State has 7 conference titles overall. Their last one was in 2000, maybe a little bit less, of not only overall titles, but like maybe a little bit more time in between. But you see the comparison here. I feel like that there is a world where the Oregon States and the Washington States of the world are elite enough, as we are literally watching, to compete in a Big Ten and a Big 12 conference. And when I look at a comparison to a school like Wisconsin, I just question why Oregon State wasn't included in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they can compete with anybody. Purdue isn't one of the premier teams from the Big Ten, so I don't put a whole lot of stock into them. However, it does show that you can compete within that conference. Now, would you be able to do that against Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan and all those things?
No,
Man,
but you could
that
against
remains to be
Northwestern.
seen. But I think honestly, Oregon State's in a privileged position because they do have the schedule they have, because they aren't, they're almost damn near independent at this point. So I think honestly, them going to a conference with richer history and deeper competition, I think that would kind of be a play spoiler for the Beavs. So yeah, so I think they're in a great position being where they are right now because there's not a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah,
There's more pressure if they're in that Big 10, they're in that Big 12 all of a sudden, and they gotta really, really play.
Yeah, heck, it's just kind of them against the world at this point, and that's the mentality I think all Beavers fans had, and Cougars fans, as you should have, as soon as the Pac-12 started to break up. It's just like F everybody, yeah. It's apparently just us. We're on our own, and I will say good on the Pac-12 for getting the expansion done. They obviously are very motivated to exist, but it is just in the back of my mind frustrating to me because I still think it essentially ends up as a Mountain West 2.0 with the additions of like Hawaii, Oregon State and Washington State. But good on Oregon State for getting the win over Purdue, looking like a very good, I would say pretty normal football team, one that should be in one of the Power 5 conferences after their 38-21 win over the Boilermakers. All right, Rashad, we got to switch out of some football talk and get into some local basketball talk. If you were living under a rock this week, you have not heard that the WNBA is making a return to Portland. I am super stoked about that, Rashad. One thing I am not stoked about, though, is them playing in the Moda Center. We'll get to that next year on a Schultzy and Shot edition of Football Sunday here on 1080 The Fan.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV?
Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
A Schulte Shot edition here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan of Football Sunday. Although we're talking a little bit of basketball because some huge news dropped this week, Rashad. A big local announcement. The WNBA returning to Portland. Yes.
Love
it.
I'm actually super excited about that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if nothing else, that means we get basketball in the summertime.
All
year. Sure, at least most of the, barring some Olympics where they take a couple-week break. But, we get to see Caitlin Clark, come through. We get to see the first unanimous MVP since Cynthia Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that, but Asia Wilson, just was named for
Yes, she was.
just won her second MVP trophy. Was it today or yesterday?
I think this morning.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure, when is the franchise coming? Is it next year?
So they're going to
Year after?
start play in 2026, according to the press release from the WNBA.
So that means potentially the Blazers, with it being an expansion franchise, right? Excuse me, the Fire, or what are we calling them this time?
They don't have a name yet.
We'll just stick with the Fire.
Yeah, they
I
said
think
that they're beginning branding discussions.
it should just be the Fire
Hopefully.
again, but that means potentially Portland has an opportunity to draft Juju Watkins. Like that could be,
Haley Van Lith.
Haley Van Lith. I'm not sure how. What year is my girl from UConn? Not Haley, but oh my gosh, I'm spacing right now.
Well, I don't
Point
know.
guard.
If she's probably coming within the next 2 years, which means that it will be, by 2026 to where she could be on Portland's
It's a
roster.
great. Listen, I think the women's game has grown so much. I think, and here's the one thing I love the most. I think there's always been a kind of a stigma around women's basketball, and almost kind of a generalization that you have to look like this. You have to, all women's basketball players are like tomboyish and, all these things. And that may be the case for a lot of them. But I think we're in this era to where these ladies can just be themselves. So if you are the more tomboy type, cool, be that. If you are more feminine and you enjoy wearing short skirts and stuff to have your boobs out and stuff like that, man, cool, do you. So you're looking around the WNBA right now, and you're seeing, I think, a lot of women that are more relatable to to women in general. So it's not just one type of woman that you're seeing anymore in the NBA. They're able to really embrace their femininity if they want to, or really able to embrace the more masculine side of themselves if that's what they want to do as well. And I think there's something for everybody. And so when you look at these hoopers, like Asia Wilson's a hooper.
Yeah, the game is getting so much
Caitlin
better.
Clark is a hooper. I don't know if Angel Reese is a hooper per se, but she's definitely a specialist, and she's great at what she does. She is closer to Dennis Rodman or even an Andre Drummond than I would say she is to Caitlin Clark. At this point, like, she's rebounds, putbacks. That's kind of what she does, and there's a space for that in the WNBA. And there's space for that in basketball. I don't know. I'm super excited, especially having a sister who's 17, having a stepdaughter who's 19, who is a hooper and stuff like that. Like, these are ways that we're able to kind of have some more connection, like going to the college tournament when it's here, when it's held at the Moda Center. Like, that's huge. Like, and that's a lot of fun to be able to look out and see all the girl dads, out there with their daughters, or see all the moms that want to bring their daughters out to see these, incredible hoopers. So to have this, in our own backyard again, because I thought the Fire was cool, and that's where we got Blaze from. Was from being he was the Fire's mascot. He wasn't the Blazers. He was the Fire's mascot. And then, Fire left and we kept Blaze. And that's how that kind of went. And so hopefully they come up with a good name, number one. Nothing stupid, because, I think the Fire works well with the Blazers being the one. Call them the Flame. That works too, So, yeah, man, I'm excited about it. I don't know what you can do about the Moda Center. You look around and all the NBA and WNBA teams have these shiny new buildings, to play in. And if they're not shiny new, they've at least been renovated, so the crypto arena now that used to be Staples, has been, kind of, renovated a little bit. You see all the new, obviously the Clippers get their brand new stadium here or excuse me, a brand new arena here in a little bit. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do or if they're able to really make any changes to the Moda Center, because I think it's so old. There's no restaurants. There's no like cool shopping. You look at any other arena across the country and there's usually things attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Cool bars, restaurants, cool, shops to go to and things like that. Almost like a business,
it's an
business center, an epicenter. Yeah. And so the Moda Center doesn't have that. They could, they definitely could, but I think there's a lot of work to be done, around there. So we'll see, man. Like I'm excited for the team to come back. I'm really excited to see what the expansion draft looks like and really what the actual WNBA draft looks like at that team and where Portland may fall as far as drafting.
Let's get Sabrina Ionescu. Let's get Cameron Brink back here. Come on, just a local super team of WNBA stars.
That would be awesome. Cameron Brink, though, man, she's not fun to look at all.
Well, I think
gross.
that's kind of what you're talking about. It is a much more relatable league to all types of women and dudes, honestly, because I think guys watching sports, because that's really mostly who has watched sports. It's because we just want to watch a good game, and now even with I don't really think it matters what the sport is and what the sex is, with the distribution of sports, and even with the best games available to us, like a great college football game every Saturday. We still want to sit down, we'll watch a pickleball game at this point of our sports fandom existence. So I do love the WNBA coming back to Portland, becoming the 15th team in the league, especially after the bit of an issue with the possible announcement last year with the WNBA coming back here, but then going to Toronto. Credit, by the way, to Sean Highkin here in Portland, who had this weeks before anybody in the national media, in weeks before anybody else locally did. So got to give credit to Sean Highkin. I would be remiss if I did not say his name. Credit him, and really, I don't think I'm crazy in saying he's the first one that brought this up, and we would not be talking about any of this publicly right now if it weren't for Highkin breaking this story like he did, because he gave us so much more information before the story even broke. But yeah, excited to see what happens. The possibility that the franchise will play in the Memorial Coliseum in their first season in this press release is mentioned because of with renovations happening. They just don't really know at this point what scheduling will actually be like. They're already talking about that. They're trying to get, this new team into the Moda Center as quick as possible. But that is one thing, Rashad, really quickly I want to address. The Moda Center, it's pretty old. It's dilapidated. Opened in 94, 95 as the Rose Garden, and structurally has not really changed since it opened. They've done little facelifts. I would not even call them renovations, because I still remember 15-ish, maybe 17 years ago, there was a massive renovation that they called it. But I remember going in and just these are new walls, these are new colors, and you put new paint inside the suites. This is a facelift. This is not a true renovation. Yeah. I still, when I go, Rashad, I've been to one premium game in my life for the Portland Trailblazers. It was a preseason game, but I got to sit sideline. I got to sit center court, second row behind the Blazers bench. The tickets were just dirt cheap. So my wife and I said, oh my God, let's take this one opportunity that we ever get to sit courtside and go do it. And I'll tell you what, Rashad, I was so disappointed with the courtside feel. The sitting close was amazing, but there were not enough servers to bring drinks or food to the guests. You basically had to wait, maybe once a quarter. Maybe you could get an order in if you're on the sideline, or if you're on the courtside seats. And then also, it's one option for food, and it's one restaurant back there under the depths of the arena. There's no premium area to sit. There's no bar to go to if you're at courtside. So that, along with the lack of access to different floors, if you're in a suite, Rashad, I don't know if you've seen that crazy, really up high suite up at the Moda Center, where it looks like a nice, flush, fun area to sit. It is, but the last time I sat up there, no servers came. You had to go down 2 floors to get drinks, so then you end up missing a quarter of the game because the elevators are slow. So there's just a lot of issues with the Moda Center that I have, Rashad, that I really hope that they not just do a facelift, but a massive renovation. It does say, there was an article from Oregon Live that said that there was a massive renovation planned in the next 5 years. But Rashad, we've got to be talking like premium. It's got to look like what Crypto.com Arena down in LA does at this
It has
point,
to look
right?
like that sometime soon.
Soon.
Sometime soon. You can't have a crap franchise if you're the Blazers and a crappy arena to boot. Doesn't work.
No, yeah, it's like I don't mind going to a concert there, but going to a game, it's a lot different. And I've been to Crypto.com Arena. I've been to TD Ameritrade Arena in Boston. Just so much more fun, so much more premium of a feel, and so much more that you get for your money, in my opinion. But yeah, we're already late, but really excited about the WNBA coming to Portland. Just not so excited at this point about where they are playing. All right, coming up next, we'll shift gears to baseball. The Seattle Mariners playing in just about an hour from now, trying to get the series sweep over the Texas Rangers. Still technically in the playoff hunt, but their recent success might be too little too late. We'll get to that next. But first, here's SportsCenter with me.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, a busy Week 3 NFL slate in progress right now. Let's get you some updates on the scoreboard. 2 minutes to go in Cleveland. The Browns and Giants are tied at 7 apiece. Daniel Jones, 7 for 8, 75 yards in that game so far. I don't know if he's heard the talk all week or what, but doing well. In Tennessee, the Titans and Packers, with a minute to go in the first quarter, looks like Green Bay leads 10-7. About 3 minutes to go in Indianapolis. Bears and Colts are scoreless. 1 minute to go in the first in Minnesota. The Vikings lead the Texans 14-0. Well, my pick there was wrong. Saints lead the Eagles at the end of the first quarter 3-0. And going into the second quarter, the Chargers lead the Steelers 7-0. Justin Herbert 5 for 5 with 58 yards and a tutty so far. Broncos leading the Buccaneers 14-0 with just under 3 minutes to go in their first quarter. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has new shirts from the fan shows and hosts you love. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
Get back to school savings.
Joe on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
A Schulte Shot edition of Sports Sunday, Football Sunday here on 1080 The Fan. Talking a little bit of baseball since we are running into the last week of the regular season now, Rashad. This following Sunday from now, that'll be it. That'll be done as far as the 2024 MLB season goes. And the Seattle Mariners technically are still in the playoff hunt, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if those Astros have anything to say about it, then they won't be.
Oh, no.
But, yeah, they're definitely still in it. Again, 5 days left. What are the Mariners, 5 games behind?
5 games behind the Astros, but in the wild card, they're only a game and a half back of the Minnesota Twins right now. A half a game also ahead, a full game ahead of them are the Detroit Tigers, but just a half game ahead of the Twins are the Kansas City Royals. So now, Rashad, not one, but possibly 2 wild card spots being fought for in the last week of the regular season or so. And since the Mariners fired manager Scott Servais, they've really turned it around on offense overall. New manager Dan Wilson bringing in former hitting coach and best hitter of the Mariners history like ever, and probably one of the best hitters in all of baseball history, in Edgar Martinez, to come in and lead the way for the last month. And I'll tell you what, man, their WRC plus is up, their batting averages are up, they're hitting sacrifice flies at a clip that they haven't all season. I think up until Edgar had gotten hired, they had like 13 or 14 sacrifice flies. Now they're already up to almost 20 in just a month compared to the span of 3 or 4 months leading up to that. So it's obvious, and one of those guys, the obvious what the turnaround has been, and one of those guys in that turnaround has been Julio Rodriguez, absolutely raking.
J-Rod is killing.
5 home runs in the last 8 games, Rashad.
Yeah, the bats for sure woke up for the Mariners. You know, there was it looked bleak after you lose 11-2 to the Yankees and then follow that up with a close loss, right? You know, they had a chance to win the game, but they followed it up with a close loss to the Yankees. But the last 2 games, 16 runs have been scored for this Mariner squad, and they've only allowed 6 runs, against the Rangers. And so, if they can continue this, later, today, or they play today, right?
Yeah, they play in just about an hour.
Yeah, so if they can continue this and get another dub, and the Royals have been trending the opposite way.
Yes,
so the Royals have lost 6 in a row, something like that,
5 or 6 in a row, yeah.
Yeah, and so if they can, if they're trending that upwards, and the Royals continue to kind of struggle, then there you are. You can kind of creep into the playoffs if you're only a game and a half back from being in there. And so this is gut check time. The last 5 games of the regular season, you're beat up, you're tired, you're sore, like all the things. But this is why you play. You play to get into that point until October, and to really make a big push for early November and be playing in the World Series. And so this is really, really, really where you want to be peaking, right? You want to be playing your best baseball right now. And it looks like, at least over the last 3 games, the Mariners have finally started playing, not finally, because they've been playing good ball all year. So let me take that back. But it looks like at this point they know what the goal is. They understand the assignment. And if they keep hitting anything like they've been hitting over the last couple games, I think they're going to walk into the playoffs.
I mean, their approach has changed so much at the plate that Edgar Martinez has really impressed a team approach when you get to 2 strikes. Really, the best way to hit with 2 strikes is to not get to 2 strikes. So I feel like there's been a lot more attacking of fastballs, of pitches in the zone, which is something that you just didn't see Mariners hitters doing earlier in the year. So the pitching's been on all year, but finally seeing the hitting starting to get up to that level. By the way, the Red Sox in game 1 of a doubleheader today against the Twins. This one is bottom 3 right now. Boston leads 6-0. So barring a comeback, it looks like the Mariners will now be just a game behind Minnesota after this first one. But mind you, Rashad, it is actually 2 games because the Mariners do not hold the tiebreaker with the Minnesota Twins or the Kansas City Royals. So you've got to have a game better than them record-wise, or you are not getting into the playoffs, unfortunately. So it says 1 in the standings, but it needs to be 2. And for the Royals
2.
at this point, it would need to be 3. And really, that is much better of a chance for the Mariners as far far as their playoff hopes go than the AL West. Yeah, the Mariners have been winning, but the Astros have been winning too. I guess the one caveat is if they win today and the Astros lose, you're 4 games back. You do control a little bit of your own destiny going into Houston on Tuesday, but you have to win out. You have to win and then basically sweep the Athletics in the final series of the season as well. So technically, as far as the division goes, they do control their own destiny, but yeah, the wild card actually giving the Mariners a little bit of a shot. So I've been very, very Jekyll and Hyde watching this team, not just this season, but really even in the past month, Rashad. I feel like as soon as, Seattle is right on the precipice of being out of it, they do just enough to stay in it. But we're running out of games. To quote Jack Bauer, we're running out of time at this point. So the Mariners eliminated the Rangers from the playoffs yesterday, but hopefully they can keep winning so they are not eliminated themselves in the next couple of days. All right, we got to get out to our final break, wrap it up with something that you just probably shouldn't do. Although I'm wondering if we actually don't hear about this happening nearly as much. And if this happened more in the days before social media existed. We'll get to a very stupid decision by a Major League Baseball all-star and how his team disciplined him to wrap up the show. Coming up next, you're on Football Sunday on 1080 The Fan.
Aloha, it's Marcus from the 808. Need some aloha in your day? You need 808 Hawaiian Restaurant, brah, on East Burnside, Woodstock, or in Beaverton. Menus for
Sports Sunday with Rashad Taylor and Joe Fisher on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Schulte Shot edition of Football Sunday here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2 in the Odyssey app, YouTube, Twitch for all the kids. Wrapping it up here on a fun Sunday. I usually like to wrap up the show, Rashad, with either betting picks. We did that at the end of the last hour, or a palate cleanser. So this is our fun palate cleanser. Maybe giving you the opportunity to make fun of somebody that's dumber than you are this morning, or really just laughing in general at the Washington Nationals all-star shortstop in C.J. Abrams and the decision that he made.
Oh, my God.
He was demoted by the Washington Nationals to AAA, to the minor leagues, basically on the last day, or right before the last day of the regular season, because he reportedly stayed out all night at a Chicago area casino, leaving only hours before Friday's game against the Chicago Cubs. That is according to ESPN's Jesse Rogers. Multiple other reports out there about this as well, Rashad. But the manager for the Nationals, Dave Martinez, he confirmed the demotion, but termed it an internal matter, said that this is not performance-based. Really wouldn't speak much on it other than that, but he said it's about taking care of the person first and not the player. I'm going to do everything I can to help him. I love the kid. He's a good kid. He's going to be back. Now, this will not affect his service time. He had already earned a full year. There's a day, basically, after 172 days in the majors, you've earned that. So some part of the last month just doesn't really count, although apparently Abrams could file a grievance because he is gone for the last week or so, he would miss about $30,000 of his $752,000 salary. He could file a grievance for that since this was not performance-based. He was one of the players acquired for Juan Soto a couple of years ago in that massive trade to the San Diego Padres. So yeah, one of the major young pieces of the Washington Nationals' future making a boneheaded decision, Rashad. I mean, obviously, you can't do that on a game day, right?
You can't, but
I
mean, you can't because you're a professional. But
exactly.
I'll say this: it's the Nationals. Doesn't matter. You've won 69 games. You've already been eliminated from playoff contention. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he was kind of like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he was playing, or how much action he really saw. But that's a bonehead move by a young.
Well, he was
player.
an all-star this year.
Really?
Yes. No, C.J. Abrams had a great first half, actually. 268, 15 home runs, and 15 stolen bases in the first half. Earned a spot on the National League All-Star Game roster, but in 49 games since the break, he's only batting .203.
Then
5
this
homers,
is just a vacation.
17 RBI.
This was just an early vacation.
He's mentally removed.
And honestly, I think it would be tough to. It is tough. Yeah, I've played on, and mind you, at a much, 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 much smaller scale. I've played on some pretty bad teams.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be up for every game.
Hard to stay
especially
focused.
when it's a baseball season and it's long and it's 160. Hey, man, like, it's hard to get up for every single game. So I'm not going to say I don't blame him, because you are getting paid handsomely to be able to be out there and play. However, like, you talk about somebody being disconnected. The only thing worse is if they play for the Marlins or play for the Rockies.
Or the Chicago White Sox.
Or just one of those teams that they have no chance.
I mean, we've heard
going
reports.
anywhere.
We've heard reports of people falling asleep in the clubhouse in Chicago,
Yeah.
and they're about to set a record for futility with most losses in a major league season.
The White Sox might be the worst ran franchise in sports.
Possibly
In sports, not baseball. In sports, it's a very good possibility that the White Sox are the most poorly ran franchise in sports.
I mean, at least they've won a World Series. To quote Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times on with Puck Sports last week, he said that the Seattle Mariners could F up, and he said the F word could F up a cup of coffee, and that is so true.
That's absolutely true.
So yeah,
We've
at least
seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. At least the White Sox have been there. But I did have the question as we get out of here, Rashad. We only got about a minute left, but C.J. Abrams getting sent down for this, I do feel like in the world of social media, we hear more about players getting caught. Michael Jordan famously going to a casino doing an all-nighter in the 90s before a playoff game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Players have done this for quite a while, and I do think we're just hearing about it. I'm not trying to excuse it, but we're hearing about it more because it's on social media, right?
Yeah, and it's become more and more common, but I guarantee Jordan would be considered a scumbag by today's standards if we had social media back in the early 90s.
Well, we all have the right to judge, right? Nothing's going on in our closets or our lives, so we all can cast the first stone on anybody that screws up on social media.
Bingo.
Well, that's going to do it here for this edition of Football Sunday. Sans, Joe Fisher, Rajad, thank you so much, man. That was awesome. Love you. We are going to get out of here. Make sure you tune in to the Seattle Seahawks v. the Miami Dolphins coverage starting here in a few. Coming right up here on 1080 The Fan. Thanks to everybody listening. Have a great Sunday. This has been Football Sunday here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan. Have a good one.
Are you curious about who offers the best deals on top-rated